second day of full pads today, and thought it was a good physical practice. I thought the guys really got after it, and it was good. We had a couple live periods where they had a chance to tackle, which naturally that's one of the things early on that is the hardest transition to. When you're working on staying up and not going to the ground, and then all of a sudden you turn it on and you go live and you start going to the ground. Tackling is one of the things you really have to work on early on once we start going live. So we got work to do there. But all in all, I thought the spirit was good. It was a tough practice. We'll be a little lighter tomorrow, and then we'll scrimmage on Saturday.
Questions? This may be a dumb question, but how do you work?
Never dumb, just not always great.
How do you work on practicing, or work on tackling, especially since you don't want you guys to get hurt?
Well, one, I think, is from a fundamental perspective, right? Whether it's individual groups, whether it's special teams drills, we really try to work on fundamentals of tackling. Whether that's working on proper fundamentals, technique, and tackling a bag, to then working on tackling a ball carrier but not going to the ground, and then when it's time we go live, then it's time to utilize all that technique and then go ahead and get yourself to the ground. You have to utilize these live periods that we have to really work on it. But it starts in the front end of working the fundamentals and techniques, and then you see the guys that apply those fundamentals and techniques when it's time to go live, and the guys that abandon their fundamentals and techniques. Those are the guys that, man, we know we got to drill back into because he's not applying the things we worked on for 5 practices to get ready for this one.
Is there a little bit more pep in their step or a little bit more excitement when they know that they can actually hit somebody?
I think so. Football is it's a contact sport. It's a violent sport, and for some of these guys, that's part of the reason I think they play it. They get to hit people. Outside of hitting them above the head, above the shoulders, you don't get in trouble for hitting people hard. And that's one of the aspects of the game, whether you're a defender or an offensive player, a ball carrier for that matter. And, we pride ourselves on being a physical football team. And so when they get these opportunities, you can kind of feel it a little bit. Generally, we try to do the majority of our live periods at the end towards the second half of practice. So that we keep our fundamentals and do those things, our individual drills, things of that nature, and then let them go cut it loose late.
You have a couple guys who are moving back to safety. How have you been able to assess how Anthony, Keaton, Mo Blackwell, Jaron, all those guys are handling that spot? I
think Anthony, it's been a really natural move for him for whatever reason. I think it's just because he's played a lot of football. He appears really comfortable. I think Jaron, he's a really good communicator. He really understands our defense, and he does a great job of communicating and getting people lined up. And again, he's another guy who's played a good amount of football his first 2 years here. Keaton, you definitely feel the coverage ability. Anytime a corner goes to safety, you feel his coverage ability, you feel his burst and speed. He is a good tackler. We've seen that a year ago on special teams, but there is some different angles when you're at safety and you're tackling, when you're fitting into that box as opposed to kind of coming outside in from a corner perspective. So definitely working on that with him. And for Mo, a guy who's kind of fluctuated between kind of that dime linebacker and safety, very comfortable tackler. Probably one of the better tacklers on our team. Got great instincts. He's violent. Coverage ability is something that we've definitely seen an improvement from him on, an understanding of the defense. So his transition is different than Keaton's, right? One guy's going from corner to safety, the other guy's going kind of from a dime linebacker to safety. So how they view the game and see the game, their perspective has changed differently from one to the other. But I think, Coach Gideon's done a nice job with that whole group of, there's a lot of transition. We started that in spring. Now we're into fall camp, and we've definitely seen improvement.
Coach, obviously, Quinn is young, and obviously Hudson's a little bit of experience. How do you simulate, because since you can't take them to the ground, how do you simulate that someone's about to take off your head so they get that clock going and get used to that pressure when you can't take them to the ground?
I mean, it's probably one of the more difficult things to do at that position. One, we do a lot of drill work with them. and they feel bags, they feel things. Two, hopefully, I put a fair amount of fear in them from the back about getting the ball out. I'm not very shy when it comes to that because, I think if you get sacked 10 times, I would say 8 to 9 of them, the quarterback has the ability to throw the ball away. Whether it's because somebody misses a block or whatever that is, or you're holding the ball and now you got to get rid of it. You should be able to get the ball away. There's times I get it. There's a free rusher, you don't see him and things happen, but we pride ourselves on limiting sacks. Part of that is knowing what to do with the ball, where to go, being precise with our reads. 2, understanding our protections. So we work a lot on that. And then 3, having the ability to throw the ball away. And you earn the right to do that. And by knowing what to do and where to go and where defenders are. But taking sacks is unacceptable in our program. And so there's consequences to that, and we try to enhance those consequences as we go.
I should have asked you this during the bus tour in the summer, but from a big picture standpoint, what did you want PK and the defensive staff to go work on during the summer? Talk about prideful. I mean, those are prideful guys too, and
Sure.
they want to get better
Sure.
as well. What did you want them to implement or change, and are you seeing that kind of change?
Well, I think, again, without getting into scheme and giving too much stuff up, I think, one, all of our defensive coaches are excellent coaches, and they've coached defense at a high level wherever they've been. For PK's instance, whether it was Montana State, Boise State, University of Washington, had great defenses. I know that because I went against him. Top 10 defenses in the country and things of that nature. And whether it's Terry Joseph and what he was able to do and what they were able to do at Notre Dame, to Bo Davis and his career of when he was here, when he was at Alabama and in the NFL, Coach Choate and his time at Boise State, Washington, what they did at Washington State. So we've got really good coaches over there. And to your point, I do think there's a lot of pride in playing a style and a brand of football that we're all proud of, but that they're proud of too. And sometimes, seasons go the way they go. And I think one of the things that we're trying to work on and have put an emphasis on is a level of consistency to where, we don't play really good defense or offensive football in spurts, but we're able to sustain that for 4 quarters. And so that's the first part. 2, really working on our ability to communicate at a high level collectively, all 11, and being on the same page. 3, playing with really fanatical effort, where if a guy is wrong, there's 2 or 3 more white hats at the football that can kind of make up for that. But schematically, clearly we'd love to play a little tighter coverage. We'd love to be more stout against the run. We'd love to have a more natural pass rush. I mean, they're all things that everybody year in and year out is trying to be really good at, right? Play great against the run, play tight in coverage, affect the quarterback. And then probably the most important thing that I stressed coming out of spring, that we stressed throughout the summer, that we're trying to find every which way to enhance, is creating turnovers. It's the number 1 stat in football that pertains to winning and losing. And, I always look at the overall season plus-minus ratio of a team. And generally teams that are plus 10 or better on the season have really good years. Very rarely do you see a team that's plus 10 in the turnover margin that's 5-7, right? They're plus 10 or better. You're looking at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 wins, right? And those teams that are getting close to plus 20 in the turnover margin, they're looking at a championship type season, right? And so it's twofold. We've got to create more defensively. Offensively, we cannot turn the ball over. We cannot afford to do that. And so it's been a huge emphasis for what we've done in camp and will continue to be.
Cool. Thank you. Coach, obviously you got the scrimmage coming up on Saturday. What are some of the things that you're hoping to get out of that, and how does a scrimmage weigh into your thought process as far as depth chart goes?
Yeah. I think a couple things. One is special teams. We've put a lot of work into it on teams, and we're rotating 4 deep on special teams right now. Generally, when the season comes, you're 2 deep. So we've got to do a really good job of evaluating and putting these guys in position from a special teams perspective Saturday, so we can pare that down from a 4 deep to a 3 deep next week, and then after next scrimmage, go from 3 deep to 2 deep. That is definitely paramount. Two, tackling. It's going to be the first time they tackle for a lot of plays in a row, and who's a consistent tackler, who's not. Three, execution. It's not always about the big plays one way or the other. It's about who can do right over an extended period of time, one play at a time, regardless of how long a drive is. And so assessing those things. And then the ball, can we create turnovers? Can we hold on to the ball? Can we do those things? So there's a lot to look at when you scrimmage because, again, our practices are very structured and very drill oriented until we get to our team periods. When you scrimmage, man, we're playing football. And so there's a lot to evaluate, but those are just some main things that we'll look at.
And specifically at the quarterback position with Hudson and Quinn, what are you looking for them during the scrimmage?
Execution, decision making, accuracy, leadership, body language, understanding the special situations that arise in the scrimmage, third downs, red area, 2-minute drills. There's going to be a lot of different scenarios that come up, and how they manage those situations as they show themselves in the scrimmage, as opposed to in practice when we're going to do a drill. Red area, and we're in the red area. When you're playing football, it could be a 3rd and 9 situation, which you got to tap into. You convert it, now all of a sudden you're in the red zone. And so your brain has to shift to what is the situation that we're in. So that a lot for the quarterbacks that way, but that's overall for a team. We're really trying to understand the situations that make up the game. The quarterbacks are the ones at the forefront of all that, of understanding that and operating at a high level when those situations come up.
Where are you seeing Malik progress in the quarterback room, and
It's been a better start, as I touched on, just missing the front end of spring ball, missing the front end of summer. I think it's been a good start for him. You definitely see the talent and the skill set and the plays that definitely wow you, and so now it's just really drilling down into the system to where he's really comfortable, for 6, 7, 8, 10 plays in a row, not kind of 2 plays on, 1 play off, and so that's what we're working towards.
Got time for 2 last ones?
Sark, you talked a lot this offseason about improving football IQ. You even talked about it late last year. How do you judge whether football IQ is improving, and as you get more into these full padded practices and those live situations, how do you tell if that's on the trajectory you want it to be?
Well, we're designating actual meetings to football IQ meetings right now in camp, and we're really trying to teach situations as they arise, as they show themselves to us, whether it's sudden change, whether it's potential, 4-down territory, meaning it's 3rd down, but they're in an area of the field, even if they don't convert it, they could go for it on 4th down, and that could affect play calling on both sides to 2 minute at the end of the half, 2 minute at the end of the game, red area, short yardage, tempo plays, and what teams are trying to do. So we're dedicating meetings to that as a team, and we're trying to provoke conversation about it, and so that guys are, and then who is applying it in practice, and then who is applying it in scrimmage when those things arise. Who are the guys that are communicating those things, and then who are the guys that are totally oblivious to what's going on around them? That's important. And so, like I said, that's what Saturday is for in the scrimmage. There's a lot of evaluation that is going to take place, and a lot of notes will be written, a lot of constructive criticism will be made, and that's good. That's healthy. And then who can improve on those things as we keep moving forward.
Last week, Coach Flood talked about how there would be guys that started out at guard, and then eventually in their career they bump out the tackle, and even prior to your last stop, you had guys that you started at guard, bumped inside. How do you talk about making that move with some guys, and then who are some guys who have maybe thought they would be playing a tackle when they showed up and have been inside? Well,
I think the biggest and the best way we try to talk to the guys about it is we want to play the best 5 players up front. The last thing I would want to do is have 5 guys starting, but my 3rd best lineman isn't on the field because he's a backup tackle, right? But he would be our starting guard if he played guard. So we just try to explain it really well. I think one of the classic guys right now is DJ Campbell. You know, he's playing guard for us, and he's going to be a heck of a player. And that's not saying before his career's done at Texas that he's not going to end up being a tackle, but for an opportunity for him early to potentially get himself on the field, guard may be a better spot. And to go back to the last place we were at, Alex Leatherwood started as a true freshman as a guard. Evan Neal started as a true freshman as a guard. But when they left that school and got drafted in the NFL in the first round, they got drafted as tackles. And so it's about trying to put your best 5 out there that work really well together, that give us the best chance to be successful.